Hi everyone. I just wanted to give a precursor, I guess. I wanted to give a bit of a different intro today with this video and just provide a little bit of context because the truth is I'm weirdly nervous to make this video. Not because of the actual content, to be clear. I don't think there's anything I should be worried about in Clone Wars Season 6, but because this has been a bit for me. If you haven't followed the channel, this is the first video. I took a month break basically back in August. My life just got super hectic, and doing YouTube just, I mean, I started this as a hobby, and this is still a hobby. It's something I do for fun. And because my life just got so busy, it no longer was any fun. So I kind of stopped doing that. And so you have that break, and you have me not having time to, even before that, when I was going through that period where I was kind of just going through the motions to keep the channel afloat, I didn't have the time to do these videos. So, while from your point of view as a viewer, you've seen seasons 4 and 5 come out. This is your first time watching one of my longer videos. Which, if that's the case, thank you. I hope you stay for the whole thing, or at least give it a chance. So you may think like, oh, getting back into the swing of things and everything. But on my side, it's actually the exact opposite. So I have yet to finish editing season 4, and I have season 5 recorded, but I'm waiting until I finish editing season 4 to do this. And now I'm here, sitting here recording season 6, and I actually looked before I started recording. It has been 2 months since I recorded season 5. Um, so I'm kind of weirdly nervous, and I'm kind of worried. I don't know, like, how to do this. Not that I had the best idea before, but I was kind of learning and figuring it out, and now I feel like I'm taking it. Kind of just took a step back. And to be clear, I kind of had to, and it was good. It was the right thing, but I just want to make clear, if you notice, compared to like season 4 or season 5, the quality of what I'm saying and sort of I look more on edge than before. That's why. So, but you have to start somewhere, right? So here I'm gonna try to get back into the swing of things. Thank you for listening to me ramble on this intro, and thank you for listening to me ramble on all my videos. If you have listened, you watched the longer content before. So, anyway, with that out of the way, let's get to the video. Okay, all right, here we go. Let's jump into the season now. Clone Wars Season 6. Um, I should preface this. I prefaced this in season 5. It has been a little bit since I've actually seen this season. I definitely will be using just kind of like episode guides and everything, just to kind of give me a little bit of a reminder of what these episodes were. But so one thing that I did in both season 4 and season 5 was I kind of did a follow-up, right? I sort of talked about, okay, where are the interesting characters now? Like, where are the main characters? What are they up to this season? How does this season continue the story arcs of the past? Like all the characters from the past season. So, let's quickly go over that again. So, Ahsoka is not really in this season. I don't think she's ever in this season, actually. I don't think you see her until season 7. Because, well, so if you don't remember, at the end of season 5 is when she left the Jedi Order. And season 6 follows the Jedi Order very heavily. It still follows the Republic Jedi side of it, which Ahsoka is no longer a part of. So she doesn't make an appearance at all in this season. She's kind of in the background. Until season 7. where I've gone to the Ahsoka. I'm like basically in season 7. I'm like I'm the episode. The next episode takes place like right before Revenge of the Sith. Just looking at the episode description, and so, yeah, obviously Ahsoka comes back. Yeah, that storyline, which I will talk about in season 7. But so she's not in this season at all, which is a little disappointing. I get it. Like thematically, I get why she's not here. But Ahsoka and Ventress to me are the best parts of this show, and the most compelling. And neither of them are here, which is another thing. Ventress is so weird. I hope in Rebels she actually gets a follow up. So because Ventress had such an interesting. You could have done so much with Ventress after she left Dooku. After it all went down, where she left Dooku and everything like that, could have done a lot of interesting stuff with her. But she kind of just becomes a bounty hunter and then fades into the background. It's a little weird, but I hope she comes back because she's not in this season at all, and she hasn't been in season 7 so far either. So I hope they do something cool with Ventress sometime soon. Another one who doesn't really get that much, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is another one that really has just kind of faded. Hello? Okay, yeah. So Obi-Wan is really in like one storyline in this entire season, and it's just a single episode. Granted, it's a really good episode, but still, Obi-Wan just doesn't really have that much to do here. He kind of became like Ventress, which is interesting to see because he kind of just faded into the background of this show. Like, it feels like his more relevant episodes were more towards the beginning, and then he only really comes back for Mandalore. So it's weird how this show treated him, but I mean, voice actor still does a good job. I still like him. I mean, he's not my favorite character or anything, but I enjoy some Obi-Wan. So I don't know, he's kind of just here for one storyline, and that's it. Really. So yeah. Okay, now Anakin gets some more. It's really in this season, or in Anakin's one storyline where he has a major role, that really see like genuinely, like, why does Padme stay with him? Like, I genuinely don't understand. Like, talk about love and everything like that, but their relationship is toxic as fuck. And that's really what that storyline with Clovis really examines, answers, whatever you want to say. Yeah. Anakin's not a good husband at all. He's possessive and controlling and super toxic, and it's just so that's really the only storyline he gets for this season too. So yeah, Dooku gets a little bit. So obviously, I will say, interesting thing about Dooku. So something I was wondering. So the one storyline he's really in is the one where the Jedi find out that Dooku is the one behind the clone army. And he's also in the first storyline with the chip, because Dooku obviously, Dooku and Palpatine have to conspire to make sure that the conspiracy doesn't get out. So, something I thought that was interesting, or might have been interesting, was I was very curious if Dooku knew about the plan for Order 66. Because obviously Palpatine wants Dooku gone. I mean, we know that. Dooku's very close to losing his life. But like Dooku was never the long-term plan, and the fact that Dooku, like, again, I said this before, and said he is it's like a stick up his ass, but it's still true. Like, Dooku, you're a Sith. Did you never once think that another Sith would betray you? Like, how stupid are you? It's what the Sith do, and you should know that because you're a Sith. It's just dumb. Dooku really was. He was uptight and had to stick up his ass, and he was just really stupid. But anyway, I was wondering if Dooku knew about the Order 66 plan, because I thought it would be smart, like, as a contingency, if, because the clones, they're supposed to attack Jedi, right? But, like, you can make them attack all Force users, which I think is what happens, because I know, just from seeing it, Ahsoka gets attacked, and she's not a Jedi. So I was wondering if, if it affects all Force users, that could be the way Palpatine kills him. Because Palpatine never really wanted him at his side during the Empire. So if the plan with to have Anakin kill him didn't work, which I mean we know it does, I thought that might be a contingency. Have the clones go after Dooku and kill him, but that would obviously be a lot harder to do if Dooku knew the plan beforehand. Because if Dooku knew the plan and knew what was going on, he'd just kill any clones like instantly on sight. So that wouldn't really work. So I guess Palpatine just had enough faith in Anakin killing him. So yeah, that's really like the one interesting thing I thought about Dooku during this season. Palpatine also gets some more in this season. Like I said, I was just talking about with Dooku about the chip and everything, but something that I won't go into it too much now, because I'm about to talk about the episode storyline, but Palpatine, you sort of see just how much he can play them, can play the Jedi and everything like that, and to kind of just believing him without really even thinking about it. And it's kind of crazy that they just are willing to go along with it so well. Like, I don't know. Again, the more you just see of Palpatine in the show, the more you see, well, first off, how powerful he is as a Sith, and how cunning and smart, and how he plays the Jedi like a fiddle. So, you got some more of that in here, but not a ton, but a little bit. Is basically everything to say on that front, because the two biggest storylines of this season don't have really any of those characters, or they're, Anakin's in the one with the chip a little bit, but not that much. So, it's interesting that this season chose to go the way it did, where it was just completely against the main characters of the first 5 seasons. I mean, they're still here. You still see them, except for Ahsoka. But, like, not really in it that much. Which is certainly an interesting take. So with that, let's get to the episodes now. Okay, so the first storyline of this season, it takes you from episode 1, The Unknown, through episode 4, Orders. Sorry, I'm just thinking of kind of what exactly to say. But this was the one with the chip. So if you don't know, one of the clones, Tup, I think, his chip activates a little early. The chip, the Execute Order 66, that chip, and he kills a Jedi. Just straight up. And so obviously, like, the Jedi and the Republic, or and the clones and Kamino, they're trying to figure out what's going on. Well, not Kamino. This is something else I found that was interesting, by the way, is about this episode. I talked about Dooku knowing this. The Kaminoans also knew this, because in this, in this episode, they they themselves try to discourage the investigation because, and there's a scene with them. I don't remember which of the 4 episodes it's in, but there's a scene with them alone where I think they talk to Palpatine too, where they're basically explaining what's going on and how like this would be really bad if they uncovered it. I thought that was really interesting because if you watched my previous season reviews, I find it interesting when Star Wars gets philosophical and explains sort of the morality of all this. I find it morality of shit stuff, I should probably say. And so I find it interesting that the Kaminoans, they just don't care about any of this. Like they don't care. That I guess you could say they make their profit. Like, what did Palpatine? I guess you have to know, what did Palpatine promise them? Because we know Palpatine promised the Trade Federation people, Newt Gunray and them, peace. Lord Sidious promised us peace. I know I said that in Clone Wars Season 6 or something. Hold on. I know this isn't the first time I've done this, but Lord Sidious promised us peace. Ah! There's your peace. But yeah, so we know he promised the Trade Federation peace. So what did he promise the Kaminoans? Just to be left alone? Were they just doing it for the money? I don't know. It's interesting that they're willing to put the world to hell. Put the world through hell. To, just for cash, right? Like, they don't care what this is going to do. And of course you could argue, and this is something the show has been doing over and over and over again, that the Jedi aren't much better. That the Jedi's negligence leads to the same shitty conditions of the Empire, and that they're so focused on the war, they stopped focusing on their actual code and helping people and everything like that. But, well, the war was constructed by Palpatine, right? Like, the clones, without the clones, I don't know that you'd have the war. That made them lose their morals in the first place. So, like, the Kaminoans were literally completely fine with just fucking up the world and just messing it up and just not caring. So, it's kind of interesting. Like, I want to know, like, what's in it for them. But also, like, what happens to their planet? Like, genuine question. Like, what happens to their planet, like, during the Empire? Because I feel like the thing is with a lot of these planets and expanded stuff is we don't really see them after the Empire. That's honestly why, like, Mandalorian's Season 3, I know, you can watch my full review of that, and I had problems. It wasn't nearly as good as the first 2, but, like, it was cool to see Coruscant again after Return of Jedi, after all that had happened. And on Andor, too, actually, no. I'm trying to remember. I'm getting my emphasis. No, you see Coruscant in both Andor and Mandalorian Season 3, and like, it's cool to see that location during like the Empire and after Empire times, because those locations must have changed so much. Like, so much shit had changed. I really should turn down the cursing a little bit. I'm sorry. I said I haven't recorded in 2 months, so I'm kind of getting used to it again. But so much stuff has changed. In Coruscant, obviously between the Empire, or I guess it officially becoming the Empire, and then after the Empire, that it was cool to see those planets and how they had changed, because before those 2 shows we hadn't seen Coruscant since the Empire fell. So it's cool to see how those things changed, is what I'm trying to say. And as far as I know, I mean, unless it makes an appearance in Rebels, we don't know anything about what happens to Kamino. The only thing we know is that the New Republic, this is from Mandalorian Season 3, the New Republic bans the use of clones. But we know the Empire didn't do that. But we also know that the Empire didn't really use clones anymore. They had a volunteer army. I'm sure they recruited people too. You know, like they definitely drafted and definitely forced people to become stormtroopers. But it also had some volunteers in there too. Whatever. They had a human army. Not the clones aren't human. They had a non-cloned human army. So like, what happens to Kamino then? Do they just check out and do they just grab the cash and run away? Does Vader kill them also? I wouldn't be surprised if that was something that happened. Like, I don't know. What happens to them? You know, like, what were they promised? Like, why do they... I don't know. Basically, seeing this is just making me want to know more about everything going on in Kamino. Everything going on during that time. Like, what they were promised, what they were given, like, why they're so willing to just cast the world to hell. And I know I'm kind of just rambling about this, but I'm very curious, because them knowing what Palpatine's plan was, and, like, they just don't care. So, like, what's in it for them is what I want to know. And what happens to them after the Empire, because as we saw, I'm not going to get out the lightsaber again, but, and as we see throughout this show constantly, Sith don't care actually about keeping their word that much. They're fine with killing people. They're fine with betrayal and breaking their promises if it helps them, so probably wasn't worth it for them. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just rambling, but it would be cool to see what happened more into the story. Anyway, back to the story. With the chip, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else that I want to mention with the chip? I don't know. That was the biggest thing. I mean, this is a good episode. This is a really good episode. This is one of those that I would recommend to people. If you what you call it? If you want to watch some Clone Wars, you don't want to watch the whole thing, you just want to watch a couple storylines, this would be one I would recommend. This is a really good one. And it's cool. Again, you know, there was this clip from How Liberty Dies, and I know I quoted this in Season 5 also. But it really stuck with me, you know, because I saw that video first before I got to this point, and something that really stuck with me about this episode, which is true, is that Kamino kind of like becomes a hellscape. You know, when you sort of break it down and realize what's going on here, yeah, it's not good. Like, it doesn't become that much of a paradise for the clones anymore. And for Fives, I think it was Fives was the one who finds out, like, it becomes a prison. So I don't know. That's interesting. This is a good storyline, but I don't feel like there's a ton to say aside from what I've already said. They find the chip. The Kaminoans and Dooku trying to make sure it doesn't get out. Anakin doesn't initially believe Fives when Fives is presenting them with the idea, and Fives is shot because obviously, you know, they're gonna be all over him. And I guess this is something else. This was present with the Ahsoka. I want to say the Ahsoka show. I haven't watched that yet. I have to watch Rebels first. But present with the Ahsoka leaving the Republic scene or episode is that you see how much of a force the Republic is, and the clones are, and the military is, and how everything's conducted with the military. You know, and how you really don't want to be against the military. I mean, it's basically martial law. Am I wrong in saying that? I'm just gonna quickly Google what martial law. Substitution, military authority for civilian rule. Yes, basically it is martial law. Just straight up. I mean, you know, they're told to hunt this guy, and they're pretty Like, they don't really care how it gets done. They're pretty resilient, a really strong force. Like, again, the Republic has just become an excessive military force with Palpatine at the leader, and he's about to take the power for himself completely. Something. Oh wait, here, let me do it again, just in case it didn't. Oh, also something I wanted to mention about that storyline was, again, Palpatine playing them, right? Like, he's so smart. Like, Palpatine having a private audience with Fives, so ridiculously smart. Because then, of course, he could do what he did. Oh, I'm a humble old man. The Fives hurt me. I don't know why I use that voice. And he could just play them to make him look like a fool. Like, I don't know. He's just super smart. Really smart dude. And again, you also have the morality of, like, what's right. I'm not going to really talk about that anymore. If you really want a big discussion of that, check out my season 4 video where I compare the darkness on Umbara, I think that's what it's called, that storyline, to A Few Good Men. So I'm not going to really talk about it a ton more here, but what was I going to say? Oh, sort of the morality of what's right, you know. Just because you're told something doesn't mean it's right, and sort of going on your instinct to try and do the right thing, like Fives does. And it's very Captain America-esque. Now, of course, Fives does not have the super soldier serum, but, you know, again, like with the Umbara, you know, it's Fives being a good soldier here by doing the right thing and looking out for his man and looking out for his men. Of course he is. But, you know, war profiteering. So, yeah. Now we have the Clovis storyline that I was talking about earlier. I really just do not want to talk about this one. It's not as bad as the droids getting lost on the planet, but it's kind of painful to watch. I mean, I already knew Anakin was not the best person and that he had some real mental issues that were not being addressed and all of that. But, man, the way he treats Padme in this episode, not good. It's not right either. And so it's just, So, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know what else to say about that I didn't already say. I guess, you know, the one thing you can comment on is Dooku manipulating Clovis, you know, with the interest rates. And it just shows sometimes, like, you can do the right thing, and, you know, you can try to do the right thing, but sometimes it's just not in your control. There's not much you can do. And, you know, you could also tie it into the, this is going to be the second Clone Wars videos where I'm talking about the Dark Knight. But the Dark Knight, how Joker sort of says, I don't want to say everyone has a price, but, like, everyone has that tipping point where they can abandon their morals and become good. And this one was, of course, Clovis's life, or I think it was his family's life. I don't remember which. He was threatened. And it's just, I don't know. Just sucks. I don't really know what else to say about this, honestly. This storyline's not that good. This, you know, okay, Anakin is not a good person. He's a really jealous, crazy, controlling person, which, again, fits for his character, and, you know, it works for his overall story. It works, and it shines through in this episode. That does not mean it's an enjoyable watch, because it's really not. So again, I talked about this before. It works with Anakin being scared to lose people, right? You know, he's lost so much that he's terrified that that's going to happen again to him, which is really quite sad. But and that's sort of why he seeks the power. You know, first off, that's sort of why he leans into the rage. It's because and his anger is because he's upset at the world for taking everything, and he hasn't really made peace with that. It's also why he seeks more power, to have the power to stop people around him from dying. But so again, it works for his character. And I'm not going to say it's out of character or anything, because it's really not. And even for Clone Wars, which is by far the best version of Anakin, like, it works great, but it's not fun. It's not fun to watch. It's not enjoyable to watch. Next. Okay, this one is also going to be one I really want to skip, especially because I want to get to the next two. Yeah, the next storylines. This is the one where Mace Windu and Jar Jar Binks go on an adventure. And again, if you watch my other Clone Wars videos, you know I'm not a Jar Jar Binks fan. And I really wish he was not in this series. Just I wish he was not in Clone Wars ever at all. I would be pretty happy without him here. So I don't know. I don't think there's even anything special to add. The Queen gets kidnapped, and Mace and Jar Jar are going to get him. Again, I think it was in this episode, Mace, you have him, this was done before, but you have him trying to stick to his Jedi principles and say, oh, this is the way, this is how we do things, we're Jedi, but only completely abandoning it for, you know, the war and everything like that. Like, it's just, the hypocrisy is so blatant with him. It's like, I don't know, but it's kind of ridiculous that he doesn't see it. I mean, it's ridiculous to everyone, but it feels like most people have kind of just thrown out the Jedi Code. They haven't really stuck to it as oh, we have to do this. But Mace does it, and then does it when he feels is necessary, and then completely ignores it when he doesn't think it's necessary. I don't know. It is interesting, but it's, you know, you pair that with a Jar Jar Binks episode that's just about a missing queen. Mother Thompson makes another appearance, which I was kind of confused about. I was like, didn't she die? But I guess she's kind of like an eternal witch. She probably made like a bond with Satan or something for eternal life or some shit. Something. Like, I don't know. But she's here at the end. No Ventress. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this story. Okay, so this episode, this is another, I said the first one, this is probably one of the best standalone episodes of the entire show. So season 6. Okay, it just froze on me there for a second, so I thought like the footage was getting corrupted or whatever. Season 6, episode 10, The Lost One. So I just reread the plot summary on Wikipedia just to sort of give me a total refresher of this episode. So this is the one where basically they track Sifo Dyas, and if you don't know who Sifo Dyas is, I do not blame you. You know, if you haven't seen the show or this episode, it's been a while. I do not blame you, because this is really obscure reference. Let me see. So it's been a minute since I saw Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, but let me see if I can find the clip and insert it here mentioning Sifo Dyas, just to give you a little more context.
And now to business. You will be delighted to hear that we are on schedule. 200,000 units are ready, with 1 million more well on the way.
That's good news.
Please tell your master, Cypher Diaz, that his order will be met on time.
I'm sorry, Master...
Jedi Master Cypher Diaz is still a leading member of the Jedi Council, is he not?
Master Cypher Diaz was killed almost 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I'm sure he would have been proud of the army we've built for him.
The army?
Yes, a clone army, and I must say, one of the finest we've ever created.
Tell me, Prime Minister, when my master first contacted you about the army, did he say who it was for?
Of course he did. This army is for the Republic.
Okay, I hope I found it. I hope I was able to put it in. I'll probably will try to find it right after I record, and then who knows, maybe I'll remember like 2 months when I'm editing this or whatever. But yeah, so Sifo Dyas is just, you know, the Jedi responsible for the creation of the clone army. And as I already, you know, mentioned, I mentioned this in the first storyline with the Kaminoans. The clone army is the big reason for it. So the Jedi were already on the wrong path. They had already betrayed their code and everything like that. But the Clone War is what really plummeted it. And the Clone War was because of Dooku forming the Separatist Alliance and getting planets to secede. And the creation of the clone army. So then now they actually had a way to fight the war. And so, you know, without the clone army, it's hard to say that any of that would really happen. But from Attack of the Clones, you know, I'm assuming from that clip I played, you'll see that Sifo Dyas was killed without really any explanation. And so, you know, when Obi-Wan chases Jango Fett, he gives the name of Tyrannus, being involved with it somehow. And it's revealed at the end of Attack of the Clones, not to the Jedi, just to the audience, that is, of course, Count Dooku. So with all that context in mind, just in case, you know, I don't know, you're not as big a Star Wars nerd as me, though to be fair, I did not know any of this either. So, like, it's okay. So, basically, this episode is about Plo Koon finds a ship with Sifo Dyas' lightsaber in it. And this basically takes them down the rabbit hole of, you know, because he kind of just mysteriously died and no one ever really knew why. And Obi-Wan makes the connection that this was the guy who ordered the clone army. You know, because of everything I just said before. So they basically go on an investigation to try and figure this all out. Like, try to figure out, like, what, you know, they sort of get the inkling that there's more to this story than they originally knew. And it takes them down this rabbit hole where they find out that the Pikes ordered him dead. It was. So Sifo Dyas ordered the creation of the clone army, and then shortly after that, the Pikes were hired to kill him. And they sort of were trying to figure out why they're going down this rabbit hole. And then, of course, they find out, you know, Count Dooku shows up and reveals to them that he was the one who created the clone army. Which he really probably shouldn't have done. It was really kind of stupid of him to do that. Remember that the man called really Count Dooku. Yeah, and so I'm gonna actually, hold on. I'll be right back. Let me rewatch this fight, just so I can get all the information properly. Yeah, okay, so Dooku does not actually tell them that he was the one who created the clone army. The Pikes just chasing him, and they call him Tyrannus, and then Obi-Wan's like, oh wait, I was told on Kamino back in episode 2 that this clone army was created by Tyrannus. So they basically figure out then that, and then of course then they have a little fight. They have a scuffle. Dooku basically confirms, hey, I'm not a liar, dude. I may be many things, but I keep my word. And what I was saying on Geonosis, again back in episode 2, where he said the Senate is now in control of the Sith by a Sith Lord, or something like that.
What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
Was accurate. He's like, I'm not lied, bud. You're the one who didn't believe me. It's not my fault that you didn't believe me. You know, what are you gonna do? You're gonna trust the Sith Lord's word? No? Oh well, that's on you, bud. Which of course is a ridiculous statement. Why would you ever trust anything a Sith is saying? But Dooku's obviously a little different. Again, stick up butt. Yeah, so then they've, you know, it's a great fight, one of the best fights of the show, and then Dooku gets away, of course, because he can't be killed until Anakin kills him. And that's that. It's a great episode. I would watch it, but Kodo saying it out loud, I kind of just explained all the important parts. I mean, like, Sifo Dyas leads in the trail, which leads into Dooku, great fight. And it ends with, the interesting thing that it ends with, you know, Yoda basically says when they find this out, like, we're into this too deep, we kind of can't stop now. This information would have helped us a while ago, but we went down this path so much that we've really been played. But it's interesting that they don't really, like, change their tune after this. Like, they don't really change anything. Oh, oops, sorry. That's just a notification. On the phone. But they don't really change anything. Like you would think them knowing this would change up their strategy a little bit or something. Or, you know, because what I would think, like, if I was in this situation, now I'm no master tactician, but I would want to think, obviously you have to continue the war, because you can't let anyone know what they know. But you also know two key pieces of information. You know that one, Dooku was most likely, he was not joking when he said that there was a Sith Lord in the Senate. Number two, you know that the Sith Lord also gave you an army. So it's sort of like, you have to stop back and think for a second. First off, why would the Sith Lord give us an army? Right? Like, why would Dooku's master, presumably, because that you have to sort of assume that's who it is. Dooku's master or Dooku's apprentice, you know, but I don't know. Well, whatever. A Sith Lord connected to Dooku in some way gave them an army. Actually, no. You don't know that. Whatever. The Sith gave them an army. You don't know that it was that Sith Lord who gave them an army. Dooku could be the master and he could have set everything up. But okay, so you have to ask the question. Why did they give you an army to fight the Sith? Like, what do they have to gain out of this? You know, what's the point? Without the clones, they could win the war. So then that brings you to the, you know, without the clones, the Sith could just bring you the war. Which then, of course, should lead you to the conclusion that, okay, so what they're after is not the war. The war is being used for something else. What, you know, they want us to fight this war. Because otherwise the Sith wouldn't have been given us this clone army, and they wouldn't have hid the fact that it was the Sith who made the clone army in the first place. Because that was the whole point of killing Sifo Dyas. You know, so then you have to think, like, okay, what do they want this war for? And then, of course, you have the question of, you know, what do they have to gain from this? And then, of course, you have the question of, who is the Sith Lord? Like, who are you going up against? And I find it interesting that they just don't change. Like, they don't stop and think about this. They don't stop and think about any of it. Right? Because what I feel like would be the best course of action if I were in their position. And again, I'm no tactician, but just thinking logically, using my brain. I think what the best thing to do is you continue the war normally. And I know it sucks because you'd be putting more civilian lives and clones in danger. But if you stop the war, you let the Sith know that something's up. And they probably already know. But you need them, you need them to think that you're gullible, right? That you don't know what's going on, that you're not suspecting, and you're kind of just rolling the way you're rolling. Because if you tip anything off, it would be much harder to do what you need to do, which is find out what's going on here, right? So you need to be continuing the war, acting like nothing happened, and then in the background sort of be thinking about, okay, what's the point of this war, and who is this Sith Lord? Acting like nothing's wrong. And so I find it weird that they don't even try to do this. Like Yoda, who's supposed to be so wise and everything, he doesn't even try. Like, it makes sense for the others. Like, Mace Windu is fucking stupid, higher than thou mentality, sort of thinking, oh, if this gets out, the war, this gets out, it will look like shit. Will look stupid. Ignoring the fact that they already have done that's already happened. Because again, he's so focused on his stupid principles, he can't see anything outside of it. I'm not a Mace Windu fan anymore after watching the show, clearly. But yeah. But still, then why didn't Yoda do any of this? Like, I don't know, it's just odd. The Yoda who's supposed to be so wise and so strong, we know the strong part, is so wise, like, didn't stop to think about any of this or changing their plan moving forward. It's all about, the thing they say is, okay, we have to win this war fast. We just have to get it over, get it done. Because that's the end goal. But again, I'm missing the entire point. The war, what this showed you is that there's something so much bigger going on than the war. The war should not be your primary focus anymore. But they're so blinded by power and politics that they can't see it. And again, I just don't know how Yoda is hidden by that veil also. So, I don't know. Again, this is a great episode because of all the things like I just mentioned. But, again, they're so blinded by power and politics that they can't stop and think, what's actually going on here? And that there's so much more going on here than the war, which has been demonstrated. But they're so lost in their own doo-doo that they can't see it. Yeah. Okay, the final storyline about the Force Ghosts. I have a lot to say about this one. I know I've had a lot to say about the last one, which was a single episode, but a lot to say about this one. So, this one caught me off guard. I don't know if that's the right word, but I was confused. I was a bit confused about this one because I was under the assumption that Force Ghost was something that the Jedi knew about for a long time. And also, you have to remember, so the only Jedi we see are in the original trilogy, right? We don't see any Jedi from the prequels. And the Jedi are so sparse in the original trilogy, they're almost extinct, that it makes sense that we only see a couple of them, because we only, like, basically, the only Jedi that all the Jedi that we do see in the original trilogy become ghosts, right? Like, the Jedi we see, Luke, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Anakin. And Luke doesn't die, and the other three are Force Ghosts. So I always had the assumption that Force Ghosts were widely known. Like, the Jedi knew about this long before, and that I thought that basically all Jedi, or most Jedi, become Force Ghosts. So this was weird that it didn't that turned out to be not true. And it has implications for Star Wars, you know, the greater Star Wars. And I don't know that, like, I like those implications. I don't know. It feels like it becomes a lot messier than if you hadn't had it this way. And let me explain why. The biggest one for me is Qui-Gon Jinn appearing as a Force ghost at the end of the Obi-Wan show. So I know it's a bit of a spoiler, but he's just in it for like, he's just in it right at the end. Like, it's not, it's a cool Easter egg, but it's not relevant to the plot. It's like the last scene is like Obi-Wan seeing Qui-Gon. And how does that make sense? Like, knowing the rules that we know now, how does that make sense? Because Qui-Gon was able to appear on the planet with the Force beings because of how close, you know, because it was so interconnected to the Force that he was able to put himself there. And he says so as, you know, it's basically explained in the storyline that Qui-Gon started the training to become a Force ghost but never finished it. But he was able to appear on that planet because it was so interconnected with the Force. So why is he able to appear on Tatooine then? I thought the whole point of Tatooine is that it was so remote that no one would think to look there, especially Vader, who had so much PTSD there. So is Tatooine really strong with the Force? It's an empty desert. You know, if Force are the, you know, represents the, you know, the life force, essentially what Yoda said in Empire Strikes Back. It makes sense for Dagobah to be incredibly strong with the Force, with, you know, despite not housing many humans, which again would disguise, you know, Yoda's presence. But Tatooine? What? Tatooine? I don't buy it. You know, I don't buy that there's such a large Force presence on Tatooine. You know, I thought the point was because, you know, first, Luke had no Force training, so, you know, it's not like he had a Force presence, and it was so remote that no one would come looking for him. But Qui-Gon is able to make a Force ghost there? And I get it's a tiny one, so, you know, it's reduced or whatever, but how does that make sense? I don't really buy, you know, according to the rules of this episode, I don't really buy that that's something that should be able to happen. And this is what I mean when I say this episode makes problems. I mean, it doesn't make problems, but it makes it more confusing in a way that just didn't need to happen. Because, like, okay, so let's go over again. Let's go over that list again of Jedi that we know have Force ghosts, in some form. Qui-Gon, as I just said, I already talked about Qui-Gon. I'm not really talking about it again. Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin, Luke. I think that's all of them. Again, I'm only going based off of the movies and, you know, what I've seen of, you know, Clone Wars. I would say the TV shows, but I haven't seen Rebels yet. Whatever. Based off of what I have seen in Star Wars, and I'm not really talking about books and comics. I know they're canon, but, like, I haven't read any of them. So, just going based off of, you know, the popular media, Luke, Anakin, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon, again, we're talking about. Anakin, I understand Anakin getting a pass. I really understand Anakin getting a pass because he's the chosen one. You know, obviously he probably hasn't done the training that Qui-Gon talked about because there's so little time between this and him turning to the dark side. I can't imagine Anakin finished that training. Maybe he started it, but I can't imagine he really did that much of it. And it's not like he had a ton of time in between his redemption and his death. As soon as he's redeemed, he is killed. So Anakin, I can understand getting a pass though, because he's the chosen one. He's essentially the Force's son. Like, I understand him getting a pass. Luke though, I know again. So if Anakin is the Force's child, that means Luke is basically the Force's grandchild. Also, I think Leia gets one. I think I only saw Rise of Skywalker once when it came out, but I think at the end she is shown to be a Force ghost. And so Leia's actually probably the most complicated one here, because she never really did Jedi training. I mean, it's said in the sequels that she started to do Jedi training, but stopped because something about if she prophesied that if she continued, her son would be killed or something like that. I don't really remember the sequels super well. I'm gonna be honest. I think I saw them like once when I saw them when they came out, and I don't really think I've seen them since. So how does Leia... Right, so Leia did a little bit of Jedi training, and I highly doubt it was that kind of training to make yourself immortal. So how does she become a Force ghost? By that logic, she shouldn't become a Force ghost. Like, it makes no sense for her to become a Force ghost. She didn't do the training. And so Luke... I mean, Luke studied a lot of the old Jedi text. So, again, it's more reasonable that he could have done it in between in between Return of the Jedi and Episode 7. Before he abandoned it. Or maybe when he was locked away on the island, that's one of the things he did. I don't know. I don't think it's completely unreasonable for him to do it. But the reason I find it more questionable is because a lot of the Jedi stuff wasn't around or destroyed. Like, to me, the thing that would make the most sense would be maybe Ghost Yoda, Ghost Anakin, or Ghost Obi-Wan consoles him and says, this is something you should do. But it's like, it fits. It doesn't fit super cleanly, but it fits. Again, Leia just doesn't fit though. Leia just doesn't work. And Yoda, obviously we know Yoda did the training. Again, Anakin give a pass because he's a chosen one, even though it doesn't really fit either. And Obi-Wan, when does Obi-Wan do it? Like, genuine question, when does Obi-Wan do it? Is that what he's doing? Like, in season 6? Oh, I'm gonna say, no, this is the end of season 6. Is this what he's doing in like a lot of season 7 where we don't see him? Like, does he just do that in between these episodes? Does he do this training? Does he just leave? I can't imagine him leaving Luke on Tatooine to go do this training to make himself immortal. It seems against like everything he stands for and trying to do by protecting Luke on Tatooine. I know he left in the show, but I still don't think he would do something like that. Does Ghost Qui-Gon teach him? I guess it's possible, but Ghost Qui-Gon, I don't know. I don't know how much I buy Ghost Qui-Gon existing in the first place. Again, like it sort of feels like Luke, where less so than Luke though, because there's less time. Don't forget, he dies in episode 4. So sometime in between, basically, in order for this to happen, it either has to happen in between, like it just, when does it happen? It either happens in the last days of the Republic, right? Like right before the Republic falls and Revenge of the Sith happens, Obi-Wan does his training. It's either that, or he does it on Tatooine, or leaves Tatooine to do it. Like, again, technically, yes, it does work, but it doesn't feel like it fits super cleanly. Also, just to be clear, this is a good episode. Like, if you ignore everything I'm saying, these are 3 really solid episodes, and they are a solid way to end the season. I just can't help but feel like when they were making this episode, they were sort of ignoring its implications for the overall Star Wars continuity. And of course, you then say that, okay, the sequels, Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams obviously did not watch this episode because Leia and I think Kylo was a Force ghost also, right? Because you don't see his body. Yeah, I think he was a Force ghost. At the end, again, I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker since it came out, which was like 4 years ago now. So, kind of crazy to think about, actually. But anyway, yeah. So, like, you know, obviously they ignore that episode, and the episode kind of ignores continuity. I don't know. I just wish it was handled a little differently, because like I said, like even if you ignore the ones that make absolutely no sense of Leia and Kylo, Luke and Obi-Wan becoming Force ghosts, it works, it fits, but it doesn't feel like it fits that cleanly. So I don't know. I think it would have been better if either the training was less rigorous, or maybe it was more of a choice for the Jedi to, like, when they die, there's sort of a choice to come back. Oh, and also, yeah, again, Qui-Gon appearing in the Obi-Wan show also, to me, doesn't make sense. So, like, I don't know. I think there was a better way of handling it that doesn't raise all these questions. Because the reality is, it's cool to know where Force ghosts come from and everything like that. Like, there's no denying that is cool to know. But for me, this episode, it just raises far more questions than it answers. And so, if they had handled it a little bit differently, it could have been better. By instead of, you know, restricting it under this training and whatnot. Especially because, like, again, going back to episode 9, Rey hears a bunch of, like, Jedi's voices in her head, and it's like, oh, we're all the Jedi now. It's like, okay, so are they Force ghosts? Is it just they're back in the cosmic Force and they're able to speak to her? Like, how does this make any sense? And again, like, I'm just repeating myself now. Yes, you could say that it's a sequel's fault for ignoring this episode, but I think they're really both to blame. Yes, sure, it's a valid point, I guess. But this episode could have gave less restrictive rules. You know, it could have made the box that they had to fit in to use here bigger. So, I don't know. Again, it's a good episode just by itself. You know, if you ignore all these, what it means for the continuity of Star Wars. So, I don't know. That's really everything I have to say about it. That is everything I have to say about Clone Wars Season 6. Even with the reduced episode count and skipping over like 2 storylines, like barely talking about them, I still managed to make an hour-long video. So, yeah, I love to ramble. What can I say? I love to ramble about shit I enjoy, stuff I enjoy. So, yeah. With that, I'm gonna call it quits. I have to do something else, man. I had other stuff I have to do, and I just spent like an hour and a half just sitting here talking about Star Wars. So with that, I'm just gonna say thank you guys so much. If you made it to the end of another long video, thank you. Really, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and you know, I hope if you enjoyed this one, you'll enjoy more. So, Clone Wars Season 7 is going to come out at some point. It should be, compared to when, you know, me in the present now, it probably won't come out for a couple months because I have to finish the season, then I have to record it, and then I have to edit 4, 5, 6. But compared to when you are watching this, if you're watching this around the time it came out, it should not be that long, because if this is edited and uploaded, that means I just have to edit Season 7. And so that, I'm sure many of you guys who have been watching these before will be excited for. So, stay tuned for that. At some point, I will be doing a Two Towers review. Again, because my life has been so busy, I haven't read it in like 2 months. But, so I have to finish reading it. And I'm like I don't even think I'm halfway in book 1. I was right at, shit, I can't remember the name. Hold on. Again, this is going to, I don't even know why I'm providing this information, because by the time this comes out, I'm not going to be here. But okay, I'm in Rohan. Gandalf and, oh, it's spoiler. Aragorn and crew are about to meet the King of Rohan. That's basically where I ended. But of course, by the time you watch this, I'm not going to be there anymore. So, that's going to come out at some point. It definitely is going to be another multi-hour long video like the Fellowship was. If you want to stay tuned for that, just like, subscribe, all that. And other stuff too. I have other stuff planned that I want to do. I'm reading The Dark Knight Returns for the first time. I'm thinking about making a video on that. And I just have stuff that I'm excited to share with you guys. So if you want to stay tuned, like I said, like, subscribe, look at this graph. Look at this graph here. Wait. Look at this graph. And alright, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Peace out.